If you have ever said yes while something in your stomach quietly said no, you already know influence is not a theory. It is a feeling. It is that small tilt inside you where the decision seems to make itself, and only later you call it your choice. I know that tilt. I know the way your mind can get tired, the way you want to be fair, the way you do not want to disappoint, and how quickly those decent instincts can be used. Most people think influence tactics only work on the naive. That belief is one of the reasons they work. The truth is that influence targets normal human wiring. Your brain is built to save energy, to avoid social danger, and to make fast guesses with limited information. When you are stressed, lonely, hungry, uncertain, or just trying to get through the day, that wiring runs the show even more. I want you to picture a late-night scroll. The room is dim. Your eyes are dry. Your thumb moves on autopilot. You are not stupid in that moment. You are depleted. Depletion is when self-control costs more than usual. Psychologists call one part of this ego depletion, which means your ability to inhibit impulses can weaken after long effort, even if the science debates the size of the effect. The lived experience is real. When you are depleted, you reach for the easiest path, not the wisest one. Influence loves the easiest path. One of the oldest tactics is reciprocity. Reciprocity is the pressure you feel to return a favor. It is not moral weakness. It is social glue. If I accept something from you, my brain tags it as unfinished business. That is why free samples work. That is why a small gift can make you feel oddly obligated. Even information can be a gift. Someone gives you a tip, a shortcut, a compliment that lands just right, and suddenly you feel you owe them your time, your attention, your trust. Watch how often the gift is not generosity, but a hook. The hook is not the item. It is the feeling of debt. Another tactic is commitment and consistency. This is the pull to match your actions to your past actions. It keeps your identity stable. It helps you feel like a coherent person, but it can be used. If you take a small step publicly, even a tiny one, your brain starts protecting that choice. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort of holding conflicting beliefs or actions. If I do something that does not fit my self-image, I feel tension. So I change my story. I decide I must have wanted it. I decide it must be good. That is why small yeses become big yeses. Not because you are weak, but because your mind hates internal friction. I see this in everyday life. You sign up for a free trial. You tell yourself you are just looking. A week later, you are paying. Not because the product hypnotized you, but because your mind has already invested. Sunk cost fallacy is when you keep going because you already paid or already spent time. The cost is sunk, meaning it cannot be recovered, but your brain treats quitting as loss. Loss aversion is the bias where losses hurt more than gains feel good. So you keep the subscription, you keep the relationship, you keep the plan. Influence does not always push you forward. Sometimes it simply makes it hard for you to stop. Scarcity is another lever. Scarcity is the feeling that something is rare or about to vanish. Scarcity does two things. It narrows attention and it speeds time. When you think an opportunity is closing, you stop comparing. You stop reflecting. Your mind enters tunnel vision. That is why countdown timers work even when you know they are fake. Your body reacts to urgency like it is real. Your heart rate rises. Your breath changes. You feel a small heat of anxiety. Influence often rides on anxiety because anxiety wants closure. Then there is social proof. Social proof is the tendency to copy what others seem to be doing. Your brain uses the crowd as a shortcut for safety. If many people approve, it feels less risky. You see ratings, testimonials, before and after photos, follower counts. Even a busy restaurant can taste better because your mind is already leaning toward trust. The trick is that social proof does not need to be true to be effective. It only needs to be visible. And visibility is easy to manufacture. Authority is another shortcut. Authority is when you trust a signal of expertise or power. A uniform, a title, a confident tone, a clean chart, a professional-looking website. Your brain learned that authority often correlates with competence. Often, not always. The danger is that authority can bypass your own judgment. You start outsourcing your thinking. You stop asking basic questions. What is the evidence? What is the incentive? What happens if I say no? Influence loves when you do not ask what happens if you say no. Liking is a softer tactic, and it is everywhere. Liking is when warmth and familiarity create trust. If someone feels like your kind of person, your guard lowers. Similarity is one of the easiest ways to create liking. Same background, same pain, same jokes, same enemies. Your brain reads similarity as safety. That is why some persuasion feels like friendship. It is not always fake. But even real warmth can be used as a delivery system for a request. There is also framing. Framing is how the same fact feels different depending on how it is presented. A 90% success rate feels different than a 10% failure rate. Your brain responds to the emotional color of the frame. This is not irrational. Emotion is information. It tells you what matters, but framing can manipulate what you think matters. If someone frames a choice as a threat, you become defensive. If they frame it as a rare chance, you become eager. If they frame it as a moral test, you become compliant. The frame is the lens. The lens decides what you see. Notice how many tactics target attention. Attention is your most expensive resource because it determines what enters your mind. If I control your attention, I can shape your emotions. And if I shape your emotions, I can shape your decisions. This is why influence often begins with interruption, a notification, a shocking headline, a sudden fear. Your brain has a negativity bias, which means it pays more attention to potential threats than to neutral information. It kept your ancestors alive. Now it keeps you clicking. Once attention is captured, the next move is to shape identity. Identity-based persuasion is when a choice is linked to who you are, not what you want, but who you are. You are the type of person who does not quit. You are the type of person who invests in yourself. You are the type of person who sees the truth. When a choice becomes identity, it becomes harder to question, because questioning feels like betrayal of self. This is how groups pull people in. The product is not the product. The product is belonging. Belonging is powerful because social pain is real pain. Your brain processes rejection using similar circuits as physical pain. So when influence threatens exclusion, even subtly, your body responds. You might comply just to keep the peace. You might laugh at something you do not find funny. You might agree with something you do not believe. This is not weakness. This is protection. In the past, isolation could mean death. Today, it can mean loneliness, and loneliness is its own kind of hunger. Some influence tactics are not loud. They are quiet. One is the foot in the door effect. That is when a small request increases the chance of a bigger request later. Your brain wants consistency. Another is the door in the face effect. That is when someone asks for something huge, you refuse, then they ask for something smaller that was the real goal. The smaller request feels reasonable by comparison. Your mind is not comparing to reality. It is comparing to the first outrageous anchor. Anchoring is when the first number or idea you hear becomes a reference point, even if it is arbitrary. I want to make this practical in a way you can feel. Imagine you are about to buy something online. You see a price that feels high. Then you see it crossed out and replaced with a lower price. That original number becomes an anchor. Your brain treats the discount as a gain, even if the original price was never real. Now add scarcity, only 3 left. Add social proof, thousands bought. Add authority, expert recommended. Add reciprocity, free bonus. Add commitment, you already put it in your cart. This is not one tactic. It is a stack. Influence works best when it is layered. The moment you feel rushed is the moment you should slow down. Not because every offer is bad, but because urgency is a cognitive weapon. When time pressure rises, Your brain shifts from deliberate thinking to automatic thinking. Automatic thinking is fast and efficient. It uses heuristics, meaning mental shortcuts. Heuristics are not evil. They are necessary, but they are easy to exploit. So what do you do without turning your life into paranoia? I like to use a simple internal move. I name what is happening in my body. Affect labeling is the skill of putting feelings into words. It can reduce emotional intensity. I will think, I feel pressured, I feel rushed, I feel like I owe something, I feel afraid of missing out. The moment I name it, I am no longer inside it. I am holding it. Then I ask a question that breaks the spell. What would I choose if nobody knew? That question removes social proof and identity performance. Another question, what is the cost of waiting 24 hours? If waiting destroys the deal, that tells me something about the deal. Another question, if this were offered to someone I love, what would I advise? That question brings your values back online. I also pay attention to my own patterns. Influence finds the cracks you already have. If you crave approval, flattery becomes a lever. If you fear uncertainty, promises become a lever. If you hate conflict, guilt becomes a lever. If you feel behind in life, urgency becomes a lever. This is not about blaming yourself. It is about knowing your entry points. Self-awareness is not self-criticism. It is self-defense. There is a deeper layer here. Many of us confuse being influenced with being controlled. But most influence is cooperation with your own needs. The need to belong, the need to be seen as good, the need to feel safe, the need to feel certain. A skilled persuader does not force you.